Good afternoon. I'm pleased to announce the launch of a pilot program known as the Vendor Pre-Qualification Program for the Ministry of Public Works for the fiscal year 2023-24, designed to reduce the paperwork, red tape, and accelerate the response time for business owners looking to bid on government contracts. The program will identify contractors qualified to supply goods or services to government. The Ministry of Public Works continues to encounter issues while attempting to adhere to the intermediate value and high value procurement processes as set out in the Code of Practice for Project Management and Procurement. Specifically, these issues include the proper vetting of documents, timely turnaround for reviewing of documents, inconsistent matrix scoring, and compliance to respective sections. The reason why these problems routinely occur is attributed to the lack of effective staffing resources that has resulted in substandard planning and reaction time, which negatively affects the delivery of government objectives and overall service provided to the public by the ministry. The Pre-Qualified List program will identify contractors that are qualified to supply specified goods or services to the government in 26 areas of work and 6 professional services. A copy of the list is attached. This program directly succeeds the previously authorized economic stimulus program administrative framework. These lists will span ministry-wide as many of the services overlap between individual departments, primarily owing to the wide range of operations maintaining Bermuda's critical assets and providing essential services. The criteria for an entity to be approved will be set forth in each separate request for information that will include financial standing, technical capacity, and eligibility. Eligibility will include the economic, social, and environmental factors as set forth in the government's approved proposal evaluation matrix. It is anticipated that an expeditious review process will occur, and as required, financial checks with the Department of Social Insurance, the Office of the Tax Commissioner, the Accountant General, and the Ministry of Public Works will automatically occur every 90 days to ensure approved businesses are properly registered and are current on their accounts. A company that becomes delinquent with one or more of the aforementioned government bodies during routine checks will be flagged and notified by the ministry to address the outstanding issues within 30 days. If unresolved, the ministry will remove the entity from the relevant pre-qualification framework or list, and the company will have an ability to reapply once the issues are resolved. This pre-qualification method will allow the individual evaluation panels to focus solely on the specific requirements for the project and financial submissions, thus reducing the review timeframe and the chances of individual errors by evaluators, which cause time delays in the contract award process. It further allows external entities to more quickly respond to requests for proposals or requests for quotations, issuance, as well as lessen the likelihood of companies, especially small and specified businesses, being disqualified for mistakenly omitting mandatory information. In addition, using this more centralized method, it is intended to better track the distribution of intermediate and high-value contract awards and remuneration throughout the ministry, thus aligning with government's goal of ensuring wealth distribution within the local community. In order for this program to work effectively, the ministry received approval to exceed the limit imposed by Section 34.3 of the Code, which allows for the pre-qualification list to be used if under $100,000 or less is spent on the goods or services per annum as opposed to per contract. This limit would directly hamper the success of this initiative as the services routinely surpass this figure. The government contract award process is arduous. Within the ministry, the approximate time frame for awarding of intermediate value and high-value contracts can range from 5 weeks, if no procurement errors and adequate response time from other departments, to 13 weeks or more. This wide-ranging variation in response time is deemed unsatisfactory by the ministry and those local companies, especially small businesses, whom tend to financially operate on a monthly basis. As a result, these entities are electing not to participate in bidding for government projects against this administration's goal of ensuring wealth distribution. Any business is eligible to apply to become pre-qualified through the soon-to-be-released request for supplier qualifications, which can be found on the government's procurement notices website. Once an application is approved, the company's pre-qualification status will be valid for a year, allowing them to place bids on government contracts without the need for submission of standard documents that are now provided on every bid. While we cannot guarantee a pre-qualified vendor will ultimately win a bid for a contract, we can assure that those approved vendors who meet the pre-qualification criteria will benefit from a faster and less complex procurement process. This is in keeping with the government's 2017 election pledge to increase efficiency within government and decrease the response time. We especially want to encourage small business owners to consider signing up for this pre-qualification program and to not miss out on their chance to be awarded a government contract. To assist businesses, we will provide a series of training sessions to guide them through the application process so that they can comfortably complete it. To register for training, the email is VPP, Vendor Pre-Approval Program. That's what VPP stands for. Previously, during the procurement process, prospective bidders could expect a minimum of 7 weeks wait to hear any news on their bids. Now that time will be slashed to a minimum of 21 days. This is yet another effort by the government to facilitate the navigation of the government procurement process to a successful conclusion. The initial application to be part of this program is set to go live by Friday, the 20th of January. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister, for your address. At this time, we're going to invite questions from members of the news media, beginning with Jasmine from BBC.
Good afternoon, Minister. Thank you for your comments. I guess just for clarity, can you take me through the process of start to finish of this pre-qualification certification?
Okay, so what it's designed to do is to bind the process now. It's designed to minimize this down to something that is manageable for small businesses. The challenges that they have is that the bureaucracy is so complicated that you have to fill out all of these forms every time you bid for a contract. For an example, one of the forms is a non-disclosure form. You have to submit that every time, and you probably should. That should be appropriate. But there's also information on your company that really changes from year to year. You have to submit that every single time you bid for a contract. And what we've found is that small businesses do not have that backroom support to be able to do that like larger companies. And so they just do not participate. And so our aim to increase the amount of work that they're getting fails because the obstacles that are put in its way naturally are too high. And so I can tell you that this whole process is a challenge for government and for us to get to this stage where these are the boxes that must be ticked, and we can't abbreviate that process. My view, and I'm influencing that on the ministry, is that you want the process to be fair, you want the process to be easy, and you want to be able to ensure that there are no irregularities. I don't think you need a binder to be able to accomplish that. I think that, and so this effort is designed to be able to help small businesses participate in the process and not be frustrated by it.
So this will be entirely digital?
No, they submit the information, so you'd submit what your company's name is, how many staff you have, how many are union, and various other aspects of the procurement process that remain standard, regardless of what contract it is. And then you'll be pre-approved. So in other words, if I'm a mason, I submit that I have 5 masons and three tradesmen, and I do business on a regular basis, and I've paid my taxes, and I'm ready to do some masonry work for you. This process will allow you to bid on the actual work now. So you will do 2 things primarily after having been pre-approved. You'll submit information on the job that is before you, and you'll submit how much you're going to charge for it. And all the other information is already on file, so you don't have to resubmit it. So it makes the process a lot simpler and a lot easier for any business that wishes to apply, but particularly for small business.
Sure. Now, you said that there's a list of eligible companies or types, but are there which companies would you say would be excluded from
Well,
bidding?
we don't have a list of companies. That's for them.
Or sorry, categories, I should
We have
say.
a list of tasks.
Yeah.
And so we have, in the back of this, 26 tasks. And so it runs as an example: asphalting, cement, demolition, pipe installation, equipment rental, general contractor, painting, roofing, and interior works, carpentry, so all of the trades. And then there are 6 professional services, and most of them are engineering, so like civil engineering and architects, all associated with contracting. And so any company that participates in any of these activities can be pre-qualified.
It's a pilot program.
Yes.
How long will that period
It's 4
last?
year. And that's because they don't trust us. So they want checks and balances to make sure that we're following the rules so that we can confirm that nobody's stealing any money, the process is fair, and it's a level playing field for everybody who wishes to participate.
Sure. And in terms of the types of contract, well, you mentioned the types of contracts, but how many would be available at present, and where can people find those proposals?
Well, so this process is to get you ahead of the curve. So there are no projects on the table at the moment, but they will come as we go through the financial year. We're in the process now of doing budget, and so that'll provide the money for us to be able to say these are the projects that we're doing for 2020 to 2023-24 fiscal year. And then there will be requests for proposal, and you get them off of the website and make the submission. That eliminates all the regular criteria that you would normally provide.
Sure. Just lastly, how would you describe the level of red tape, not only in your department, but throughout the government, and what else do you think should be done to limit it?
You're taking me down a road that it always gets me in trouble. But I'm going to answer you. I think that there are a number of things in government in particularly if you've worked in the private sector, coming into this bureaucracy, particularly in this job of being a minister, they say you're at the top of the pile, but you have no say in staffing, you have no say in a lot of things, and your primary role is to develop policies. But I think that I operate on the premise that I have a voice, though, and so in the interaction with the permanent secretary, primarily, I can have some influence on how we advance some things. And so, as an example, we are about to eliminate BLEC and WEDCO and create one entity. And everybody wants to know why. I said, to save money. They said, how much money? I'm like, I don't care how much money. If it's $1 or $1 million, it's a savings. And there'll be significantly more than that. And so the process that we're going through in that amalgamation is we have a roadmap. We have people assigned to do various parts of that process. We are doing the legislative piece now. And so what you can expect this year, and the target date is January 2024. But I expect and believe that we'll be a lot earlier than that. And whenever we're at the stage where we've finished all of the work that we need to do in order to make this a smooth transition, we will do it. We won't wait till January. We are ahead of that process in the sense that all of the accounting for both of those entities currently takes place with a combined staff from two of them at WEDCO. That's about 4 months earlier than we expected we'd be able to do that. And so I expect that same earlier finish of tasks will continue throughout the year, and we will likely have legislation that is passed before the due date. And this is not something that is irregular. We do it all the time. You pass legislation, and then you make the effective date a date that's gazetted at some point in the future. And so what that will allow us to do, whatever day we say we're ready, if it's the 10th of the month or the 3rd of the month, whatever, we're going to pull the trigger. And I believe that it will be a template. We will use it ourselves in the ministry to be able to assess how we do things and in departments in which we do them. But the wider government can use the same template to look at things that we've been doing for 20 years, and we continue to do them because this is the way we've always done them. And I believe that you have to look at how you do things to find out whether in 2023 that's the most efficient and cost-effective way of doing it.
Okay. I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jasmine. We're now going to invite Media Maya to put some questions.
Good afternoon, Minister Burch. My first question for you, more of an example question still, but let's say I'm a local business who sent a pre-qualified application like 5 months ago and was denied potentially on the reasons of maybe the quantity or the volume of staff, and I just didn't finish everything that I needed to do. So can I apply again with this new pilot program within that time frame, or do I still have to wait like a whole year?
Well, there is no pre-approved process that's currently in place. So I'm not sure what the reference is to that, but anybody can apply. Whether you've applied before or haven't applied or you start a new company, anybody can apply. And that is one of the reasons why we are providing access to civil servants to show people how to get through this process so they don't give up in frustration, because it is challenging.
Okay, and that I guess leads to my next question would be like, is there a deadline, or can someone apply like many times a year?
No deadline. During the course of this pilot year, you can apply at any time. And it'll obviously be reflective of the number of, the amount of work that's available, depending on how late you apply. If you apply at the beginning, you'll have access to whatever it is we're doing for the whole year. If you apply late in the year, it'll be towards the end of the budget, and so the work will likely be less.
And that application, like once it's approved, is a year from that approval date or the fiscal year?
It's the financial year, so that runs from April 1st to March 31st every year.
Awesome, thank you. And my last question would be, you mentioned that the problem was due to the lack of staffing and resources, but now you've accumulated more staff and resources. Can you a little bit touch on how many more staff may be increased from the volume that you had before?
Well, the ministry overall is about 130 people understaffed and has been for quite some time. We have not increased the staff to any great extent, as one of the complaints that goes back to Jasmine's question about what we could do differently. One of the challenges that we have as a ministry, and it's reflective throughout government, is this ability to recruit. We as a government done some changes to the recruitment process where we used to have half a dozen HR people in the ministry, located in the ministry and responsible for the ministry's work. About a year ago, we done away with that and combined all of those people at 129 Front Street in one department, and in my opinion, it's not working. And everybody knows that, so I shouldn't get in trouble again for saying so. But it prevents us from being able to fill posts that are vacant and funded, and we're handicapped in our ability to be able to do that. We have one person for a ministry that is currently 511 staff. So you're going to have challenges with one person trying to manage all of that. And we have 5 departments, and so each one of those are competing for staff, and we cannot manage. And so I will continue beating that drum until we do something to try and fix it.
Thank you. And just to confirm that question, so there wasn't any like new outside hires, it was just relocating staff within the ministry?
No, there's been some hires this year, but very few.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Media Maya. Thank you, Minister, for your presentation. That concludes today's news conference.